Yahidne stands in front of a wall inscribed with the names of people who died inside a school basement in the village of Yahidne, near Kyiv, Ukraine, April 6, 2022. Yahidne, a member of the village council, struggled to compose herself as she went through the list, scribbled in black on the plaster either side of a green door, in the gloomy warren where she said she and hundreds of others were confined. Reuters. Marco Urica. Residents of Yahidne are seen inside the basement of a school, a day after Russian troops left, in the village of Yahidne, near Kyiv, Ukraine, March 31. Residents continue to sleep in the basement of the school as their houses had been destroyed. Alamina Arlo handout via Reuters. Ivan Balanovic stands inside the basement of a school, as Russia's invasion of Ukraine continues, in the village of Yahidne, near to Kyiv, Ukraine, April 6. Reuters. Marco Urica. A drawing is seen on a wall inside the basement of a school, with the words "Underground, Bank and Boom" in the village of Yahidne, near to Kyiv, Ukraine, April 6. Reuters spoke to 7 residents of Yahidne who said that, in total, at least 20 people died or were killed during the Russian occupation. No official death toll has been released by Ukrainian authorities. Reuters. Marco Urica. Tamara Klimchuk, 64, and her dog stand next to the grave of a local man in the village of Yahidne, near to Kyiv, Ukraine, April 6, 2022. "We had a very good life," said Klimchuk, whose son-in-law was 50-year-old Viktor Shevchenko, one of the 2 brothers that villagers say were killed by Russian soldiers. "We never thought such grief would come upon us." Reuters. Marco Urica. Petrol Hliston, 71, gestures in front of destroyed houses, as Russia's invasion of Ukraine continues, in the village of Yahidne, near Kyiv, Ukraine, April 6. Reuters. Marco Urica. Improvised beds are seen inside the basement of a school, as Russia's invasion of Ukraine continues, in the village of Yahidne, near Kyiv, Ukraine, April 6. Reuters. Marco Urica. Serhiy Bondarenko sits inside a room in the basement of a school, as Russia's invasion of Ukraine continues, in the village of Yahidne, near Kyiv, Ukraine, April 6. Reuters. Marco Urica search. A destroyed building is seen, as Russia's invasion of Ukraine continues, in the village of Yahidne, near Kyiv, Ukraine, April 6. Reuters. Marco Urica. Vitaly Yahidne, a volunteer from Kyiv, stands next to a van loaded with 2 dead bodies in the village of Yahidne, near to Kyiv, Ukraine, April 6. Reuters was not able to verify independently the villagers' accounts. Reporters saw one freshly dug grave in a field by the village and 2 bodies wrapped in white plastic sheets. Reuters. Marco Urica. Ukrainian servicemen check a damaged Russian military vehicle, as Russia's invasion of Ukraine continues, in the village of Yahidne, near to Kyiv, Ukraine, April 6. Reuters. Marco Urica. Tamara Klimchuk, 64, pushes a cart with her belongings through the Yahidne village, near Kyiv, Ukraine, April 6. The accounts of what happened in the village add to growing testimony from Ukrainian civilians of suffering in the towns around Kyiv during the weeks of occupation by Russian forces following the invasion launched on February 24. Reuters. Marco Urica. People stand in front of a damaged school, as Russia's invasion of Ukraine continues, in the village of Yahidne, near to Kyiv, Ukraine, April 6. Reuters. Marco Urica. Ivan Balanovic, L. smokes a cigarette with his friends in front of a damaged school in the village of Yahidne, near to Kyiv, Ukraine, April 6. The last victim recorded on the walls of the basement, Nadia Budchenko, died on March 28, 2 days before Russian troops withdrew from the village when their drive toward the Ukrainian capital stalled. Reuters. Marko Urica. Alexandra Poti reacts as she sits in front of a damaged shoe in the village of Yahidne, near to Chernihiv, Ukraine, April 6. Reuters. Marko Urica. Helena Tolachina writes on a wall inside the basement of a school as Tamara Klimchuk, 64, watches in the village of Yahidne, near Chernihiv, Ukraine, April 6. This one was buried in the yard, Tolachina said, pointing to the name Shevchenko V. And this one, they said he is there, buried in the village, somewhere, she said, pointing to the name Shevchenko T, whose body has not been recovered. Reuters. Marko Urica. Ivan Balanovic sits inside the basement of a school in the village of Yahidne, near Chernihiv, Ukraine, April 6. Reuters interviewed 6 other residents, who corroborated Tolachina's account and described being held in the bare concrete rooms of the basement, with around 60 children, little food or water, no electricity and no toilets. Reuters. Marko Urica. Helena Tolachina sits inside the basement of a school, as Russia's invasion of Ukraine continues, in the village of Yahidne, near Chernihiv, Ukraine, April 6. Reuters. Marko Urica. Chairs and tables are seen inside the basement of a school in the village of Yahidne, near Chernihiv, Ukraine, April 6. Reuters. Marko Urica. A drawing is seen on a wall inside the basement of a school in the village of Yahidne, April 6. Ukrainian authorities have accused Russia of war crimes, following the unearthing of mass graves in towns around Kyiv, such as Bucha and Matizhtin, and the discovery of bodies whose hands had been tied and shot in the head. Reuters. Marko Urica. Marks are seen on a wall inside the basement of a school, as Russia's invasion of Ukraine continues, in the village of Yahidne, April 6. Russia has denied allegations of extrajudicial killings, torture and abuse of civilians. Reuters. Marko Urica. The words, March 2022, are scratched into a wall inside the basement of a school, as Russia's invasion of Ukraine continues, in the village of Yahidne, near Chernihiv, Ukraine, April 6. 2 of the villagers interviewed by Reuters said that at first some Russian troops, who arrived in early March, behaved well, offering to share their rations and expressing surprise at the village's prosperous appearance. But others began to loot immediately. Reuters. Marko Urica. The entrance to the basement of a school is inscribed with the words, "Be careful, children," in the village of Yahidne, near to Chernihiv, Ukraine, April 6. On March 5, the villagers said they were ordered into the school basement where they were to spend the next 25 days, with only brief breaks to relieve themselves or stretch their legs. The Russian soldiers told them the confinement was for their own protection, the villagers said. Reuters. Marko Urica. A Ukrainian soldier sits in front of a damaged school, as Russia's invasion of Ukraine continues, in the village of Yahidne, near Chernihiv, Ukraine, April 6. Reuters. Marko Urica. A member of an explosive ordnance disposal (EOD) team carries a dog in the village of Yahidne, near Chernihiv, Ukraine, April 6. It was not until the Russians started their withdrawal on March 30 that those trapped in the basement ventured out permanently, said 64-year-old Tamara Klimchuk. Reuters. Marko Urica. A car sits amongst trees destroyed by shelling as Russia's invasion of Ukraine continues, along a road outside the village of Yahidne, near Chernihiv, Ukraine, April 6. Yahidne, a small farming village of just 5 streets, had been a popular place for city people from nearby Chernihiv to take a holiday cottage. It is now a desolate ruin of burned-out houses scattered with cast-off military gear. Reuters. Marco Urica.